Derek, welcome back to the jungle.
3, 2, 1.
This is The Jungle, an up-close, unvarnished look inside leadership and business strategy. We wade into the real-world leader's face and explore what they do to create a path forward, because that's what business is. Wild, exciting.
It's the jungle.
Derek, welcome back to The Jungle. That was a fun episode.
Oh, it's good to be back in the jungle. Talking about the episode that we had, that's like a bucket list type of episode. I don't. Should we spill the beans, Doug? Tell them what we did. Tell them that you.
Should we just tell them we should just start? I mean,
yeah.
We actually got to have a beer on the podcast. You know, it was an appropriate guest to have a beer with, and we had a beer with none other than Larry Bell, founder and president of Bells Beer. Anybody who knows beer in Michigan, even throughout the United States, knows Bells Beer. Amazing story of growth and really revolution of an industry that Larry Bell helped to create. In 1985, he sold his first beer. Think about that. I was 3 years old at the time. Now he is Bells is the seventh biggest craft brewer in the United States. Absolutely amazing. They ship, I think they're now shipping to Texas, to Colorado, all over the place. And he's an OG member of the craft beer movement. If it wasn't for Larry Bell, we wouldn't have all these great craft beers out there. So it was really it was a bucket list item to have a beer with Larry Bell.
Yeah, never met him in person. So he came on our podcast, which was great. Living in the Kalamazoo community, and we had a beer. So we're still a business podcast, but we had a beer. I had one. You had one. He had something to do afterwards, so he did not have one. But he held up a box of Oberon, which was cool. And yeah, just, if you're part of this community, you know what Bells is. If you're part of the nation now, you know what Bells is. I'm Two Hearted is the only thing that's in my fridge. Love it. It's my old faithful now. But just amazing. It was a fun podcast, but we got to business really quick, and it was good to hear his perspective on things because he had some good ones. What were some of your takeaways? Because it was good to have a beer with him, but he has some good takeaways.
Well, usually you have to do the takeaway first, and I do the takeaway. So you go. Okay. You do your takeaway. That's the way we do it. You do it. You do it. Okay.
I make the excitement of the Bells beer has got me all mixed up, Doug.
I know.
Okay. So a takeaway. He said something really important. He said, don't wait for someone to tell you what to do. Don't wait around. And he kind of takes this into most of his things. And if you look at the most recent COVID, when it first hit, he went through his employees and said, who can make masks? Let's start making masks. Let's start making sanitizer. Before that was all a thing, he went right away. Because he went, how are we going to have to stay open if all this happens? Can any of our employees make masks? And he had some of his employees and people making masks in the community looking to where to find that stuff. And that was before anyone was telling him what to do. So, kind of follow your principles and start making decisions and move. Because if you wait around, the decisions are changing so much every day. You've got to take some individual responsibility for yourself and your company. And you got to move your company in a direction to make it successful over the long term, which is clearly what he's done because he's created probably one of the most recognizable beer brands in the U.S. right now. So that was my takeaway, and something that people can do. Instead of waiting around, you kind of got to move. What was your takeaway, Doug?
So the one I had was you support the community. The community supports you. And Bells is an institution here in Kalamazoo. They're a big supporter of the arts. They're a supporter of Pride Kalamazoo. They have volunteer days. The Eccentric Cafe is some place that you go to hang out with friends and get a good beer and have a great meal. So this idea of investing into the community and that the community will respond. And not only is that a good pro-social thing to do, but if you think the Peter Thiel monopoly, right? If you can capture a market 100%, even if it's a really small market, and then grow out from there, really great strategy. And so, he owns Kalamazoo, and then thinking about growing to Michigan and going out from there. We recorded this podcast on June 10th. And since then, they actually released that Bells will be participating in the Black is Beautiful initiative, where they'll be donating proceeds out of that beer to two local Black-led organizations, the Kalamazoo NAACP and Face Off Theater. So just another great example of what Bells does to support the community. They've had great success at the same time. So that was the takeaway.
Those are good takeaways. Good takeaways. And you said something, the OG, right? He took this call from way up in northern Michigan, so we should warn a little spotty on the service. But if you think of someone making and manufacturing your craft beer, you picture Larry Bell, right? In northern Michigan, cabin, kind of.
In the UP.
In the UP, he's up in the UP, but
all those listeners out there are going to be like, "What's the UP?" Right? That aren't from Michigan. That's the at the top of you have the mitten, and then you have the land above that. It's called the Upper Peninsula, also known as the UP.
So. UP, and he still has a very business. You got his business sense from the conversation. Very very strategic minded, but. If you want, he still has that OG kind of look and feel to him, right? It's authentic craft beer, family made and owned still. So very cool.
We hope everybody enjoys this conversation with Larry Bell. The Jungle is produced by the Center for Principled Leadership and Business Strategy in Western Michigan University's Hayworth College of Business. Our center supports the Leadership and Business Strategy major, conducts large-scale consulting projects, and trains professionals in acquiring and operating small businesses. To learn more, visit wmich.edu/leadership center. Larry Bell, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Good to join you today.
Do you have a beverage with you, Larry?
Yeah, I'm drinking diet green tea. I've been working. I'm up here in the UP. We got contractors starting on Friday, doing the floors and everything. So I got to move everything. So I'm working hard. So I'm just having a cold green tea. I'll wait to drink the beer till later.
Cheers to you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cross this off the bucket list, Derek. Drinking a beer with Larry Bell.
Yeah, I went with the Two-Hearted, Doug. Old Faithful. Only thing in my fridge. Ever since I moved to Kalamazoo.
I've got back over on.
Oh, there you go. Nice. I like it.
So you're joining us up there in whereabouts in the UP are you right now?
Technically, I'm in Germfast. That's my mailing address, but it's really Curtis. So Eastern UP.
Excellent. My dad grew up in Lorium, up in the Houghton Hancock area. So. Yeah.
Family's been up here since 1911. My great uncle settled in Gulliver in 1911, and I got a house down there too. So we've been up here a long time.
Wonderful. Well, we really appreciate you taking time to join us on our podcast. And we've been talking with a lot of great leaders across industries about navigating crisis and leadership and strategy during crisis. And we started the podcast at the beginning of COVID. We now have a second crisis really around on race and civil unrest. Can you tell us just a little bit about what your experience has been like kind of leading through the last few weeks and last few months?
Well, I'll tell you, the last 10 days probably makes me long for the good old days when we just had to deal with COVID. When we first had the COVID mid-March event, those first couple of weeks were pretty dark. My senior leadership group is 4 people. I call them the Gang of 4. And we talk every morning at 9 a.m. And, we had some furloughs, and then we were planning another big round there. But, PPP came through, and we were able to get that. And that bad Friday when a lot of people were going to get let go never happened. And the COVID thing has not been, we had some bad days, but as we get to this point, it's maybe not as bad as we had anticipated. For us, it was really tough because we had the marketplace full of Oberon kegs for Oberon opening day, which is a really big thing for us. And, I have a good relationship with the governor, and she was going to come for Oberon opening day. So I texted her. I said, yeah, I'm not going to get to do this, am I? And she's like, no, you're not. This was before it was announced, just for our planning. So a lot of beer out in the marketplace. So we've had to deal with getting some beer back. that was out of code. We'll deal with that over the summer. But actually, right now, this week, things look a little rosier probably than they really are as everybody's reopening. People are going out again. It's just hard to say how the summer will go. We adapted very quickly at the brewery for COVID and did some pivoting. The marketplace has pivoted to cans. It was going that way, but really has gone to cans in larger packs. We're running our canning line 7 days a week right now. It's going all the time and can't keep up. So we've come out with 12-pack bottles for Two Hearted. Look, you want Two Hearted? You're getting it in a bottle because we just can't do enough cans right now. Everybody that was drinking in the bar is drinking it at home. People are still pretty much drinking about the same amount probably. They're just switching up how they're doing it.
Yeah.
38% of our business was in the restaurant on-premise trade. So we've really, had to switch things around to service the grocery and off-premise stores.
Well, before we kind of go into the, some of the business transitions here, the second crisis then, we have in the last 10 days around race and inequality and a lot of issues there. How are you approaching it as Bells, thinking through there's so many ways to contribute and so many ways to think about how you can play a positive role. How are you guys approaching what you are thinking about doing at this time?
Well, we've always prided ourselves on being proactive as far as diversity and inclusion. So we have a director of diversity and inclusion. We have a group that meets, with some of our people of color to talk about these issues. We started, 18 months ago, taking different cohorts of the brewery. So our veterans group, our LGBTQ community. We have one this year planned for Black, Indigenous people of color. We're making these special brews. So they get to decide what the beer is. So we're celebrating these different groups. We've been a sponsor of Pride in Kalamazoo for many years. Now, as this comes up, of course, everybody can do better, including us. So we're going to be working on trying to do a little bit deeper dive. So it's a little hard right now because of COVID for doing training, but using some online resources we have, we'll kind of do a level 1 of bias training and then be able to offer for those that are really interested. And we have employees asking us, we'll be able to get them into a higher level course as far as bias training. So, we put out a corporate statement supporting our Black employees, Black customers, and we are involving ourselves in a beer that I think so far there's 450 breweries doing called Black is Beautiful. We have not picked the organization that we're going to donate to around this event. So we're doing a number of things. We think we've been pretty supportive. We have a zero tolerance policy as far as if somebody has racist comments they want to make, they're out of there. We do not tolerate that. We've had that for a long time. Craft beer tends to be skews a little white. And even our trade association has started about 2 years ago, a diversity group. So it's something that we think about, have been thinking about, and continue to work on.
It's a really challenging time. Lots of hope, hopefully, coming out of this moment. As you think back on both of these crises and your leadership, what do you have lessons you'd want to share on how to lead effectively through these unknown, unprecedented times?
Well, I think don't wait for somebody else to tell you what to do. So, we moved quickly. When you couldn't get masks, we found everybody in the company that had a sewing machine and skills and set them up in a room, and we made 1,200 masks for our employees right away. We figured out how to make hand sanitizer to get that out to our employees in the field and the sales team, sent them care packages. We kind of tried to get out ahead of it because nobody really knew what to do in the beginning. So we were just very vigilant and just made decisions on our own without waiting for government entities to tell us to do these things. Came up with new ways of, to avoid touches in the brewery, propping doors open, and just being very proactive. And the other thing, number one, has been communication to the employees. We've had a daily communication. Most days have a video from one of the senior staff members telling them what's up, just on policies and everything. So that communication piece, I think, that's been really, really important for us.
Can you talk a little bit about what it means to be a pillar of the Kalamazoo community to you, and probably Michigan community as well? When I moved here and I travel now and I tell people I'm from Kalamazoo, the first thing they say is Bells, right? Do you have 2 Heart? I'm like, yeah, of course. But then you had the whole Saturday Night Live media blitz with shipping Bells off to the actress. Can you tell us how you see your role as being such a known brand of Michigan and then Kalamazoo specifically, and how you approach that side of your leadership?
I hear this type of comment, and it always makes me feel bad for the Stryker Corporation. They're far larger than us, but nobody ever wants to say, "Oh, Kalamazoo Stryker, yeah, I just got a new hip replacement," or "I was on a hospital bed that they made." It's not real sexy. People love to talk about beer, and I kind of think of Bells as being in that line of well-known Kalamazoo manufacturers that, includes the Upjohn Company and Stryker and Checker Motors. So, I'm proud to be part of that. Manufacturing, I think, sometimes gets lost in our thought processes. When we make something, it really it speaks to the area. People like to know, where I live, we make this, and can be proud of that. So, that's great for us as a getting to be a more sizable manufacturer. Then I take a look at Kalamazoo and things that really W.E. Upjohn started as far as the arts in this community. They did a lot. And, as they are now part of a larger group, when that happened, I've always said, nobody can do everything that the old Upjohn Company did. But if we all do a bit, we keep that arts going. Kalamazoo over-indexes on the arts for a town our size. And, we've always had the mantra, if you support the community is going to support you. So, I think that's really important for us. We try and get involved in those arts, youth groups. I get involved, the Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, Boys and Girls Club, Big Brothers, Big Sisters, Friends of Recreation. There's a lot of need in Kalamazoo. So, we try and do that. We encourage our people to volunteer. They get a volunteer day every year. We have groups that we do. We have groups that people can donate to that we organize at the brewery. So, being that community player has always been important to us. And I think it's important to a lot of small breweries that have popped up in the last few years.
Let's talk a little bit about that. So, and I've done a little bit of research in this space, but it's interesting, the craft beer community, because it is the craft beer community. And there's this interesting relationship that breweries seem to develop with one another, who also could be competitors at the same time. Could you talk a little bit about what it's like, what the craft beer community is like, and how that relationship with your competitors, how that helps you or hurts you as a company?
Well, I've been around for a long time, so some of it's changed for me. Most of my companions in the beer industry, I don't get to see too much anymore. A lot of them have sold. There's not too many of us original founders who are still around and running companies, especially in the top 50. So I don't have as many of those contacts, that camaraderie that I had when I was younger, when this thing was new, and I had leadership in the industry, and I went to the convention and I knew everybody. And we were causing a revolution in beer. We changed beer for the world, and it was a ton of fun. I think, so for me now, kind of getting to be more of a, let's call it a senior statesman of the industry, I don't have as much as that as I once had. Now, there's been 5,000 breweries open in the last 5 years. All those that are in that group have a ton of camaraderie. I kind of see they're like the second wave of what we did 30 years ago. And because we're in a highly regulated industry, though, when there's bills coming through the legislature or policy that has to be made, we do all pull together and work pretty closely as a group. There's going to be some issues there. And even with our wholesale partners, we agree on 98% of the issues in our industry. We're the only industry for which there were 2 amendments to the Constitution. So we are cognizant of that, and we stick together to make sure that we can still be out there doing our business.
So let's stay there with kind of the strategy part of it. This podcast is about leadership and strategy. Our listeners might want to hear. It seems like, and I don't know if this is just perception or not, there was a rapid growth in the number of breweries popping up. Some of them had more of a restaurant model as opposed to a manufacturing model or a distribution model. They popped up, and it seems COVID might have been the last chance they had, and they're not going to be able to survive this. Did you see the market becoming oversaturated, or was it not oversaturated? Do you see lots of growth, and how do you see Bells going forward when there's so much uncertainty around on-premise drinking versus off-premise, and shifting from bottles to cans and things like that? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I took a small business 101 with Tom Bresnow over at the old Stryker Center up on K College campus. And I still remember Tom talking about new industries and that there's a growth curve, but at some point, all industries are going to plateau out. And that's the point we've been getting to in craft beer. Our heady days of 20, 30% growth a year for the industry are over. And now it's down in lower single digits. At the same time, you've had thousands of breweries open, so everybody's slicing the pie up a little bit more. You're absolutely right with COVID hurting restaurants. Those that have modeled themselves on a own premise or the tap room model, they're going to get hurt. And I don't know. It's hard to say right now. This is not going to happen overnight, but we could lose 20% of those licensed breweries in the U.S., and the growth rate certainly is going to slow down. Tariffs on China have shut the door on cheap equipment. So for us, we were lucky that we can pivot to the packaging model, and because we're not real reliant on our bar. But I think this is going to, for several years, this is going to change people's habits, how they consume, where they consume. So the package business is going to be important. How the chains will become more important. Smaller independents will struggle probably through this. So, we're certainly investing in our team on our key accounts, which is the chains, getting authorization there. So, you have to kind of look and say, how is this all going to change? So I think, we're in good shape. Of the 8,000 breweries in America, only 50 have contracts with the can manufacturer. Thank goodness for that we had that. And we try and do forward-looking contracts. So it's still, we have a great business insights team. We've invested in data and people that analyze data every day so that we can do modeling for forecasting on what's going to happen. I think that's key, to be able to go to a wholesaler and say, here is the data we have. And a wholesaler says, oh my gosh, you got better data than anybody. Guess you're right. That's right. Here's what we're going to do. So knowing the numbers and being able to implement them is really key right now.
When you think about moving forward, we had a period of time where it was really cash, liquidity, cost savings, and now we're into opening up into a new phase. But there is a new normal that's people are trying to figure out. How do you think about being aggressive and going on offense and innovating versus kind of holding and waiting and seeing and how things play out? How do you feel about moving that way?
We kind of were in a rope-a-dope moment for a couple of years, is how we were looking at things, because of all the new players, that things were going to shake out and settle out a little bit as it was. Now, things are a little bit different, and there will be opportunities to be aggressive in the marketplace with new products. It's just changed a little bit on how you're going to do that and implement things. How you advertise those new products is going to change. We, for the next probably 18 months, possibly 2 years, depending on when we can get a vaccine or treatment, the ability to market at events is going to be gone. So everybody's switching to digital. That's the thing to do. So we just have to take a look at how the market is changing and be able to work into different methods. But we still are going to work on innovation and being able to put those packages out. That's working with those big players, with those chains, the ability to put up a test package and go into that account with their key buyer and say, here's what we're proposing, taste it, look at the package, what do you think? Because we don't just develop these things overnight and boom, it's out in the marketplace. It takes a while. The can company needs, they want to know 6 months in advance that the government has approved the label so that they can plan for making it. So these things go slowly, but working with the key partners, we can come up with products that we think are going to resonate out there.
You have one more, Derek, and then we'll go rapid fire.
Yeah, sure. I'll take one more. So I really like this shakeout and settling of the market. I think living in Kalamazoo, you've seen so much flux with the tap rooms pop up and change ownership. I think the other big one is a lot of the big players that you have been aggressive in reinventing beer for the world, to use your terminology. Do you see that continuing, the large amount of M&A from the really big players trying to come in and take some of the local craft brewers under their wing and to extend their brand through acquisition?
Well, I think the M&A activity will be coming more from probably the brewers of Europe and Asia are looking aggressively still. I think Anheuser-Busch is probably pretty much done. They have some restrictions from the DOJ after they purchased out SAB Miller. Miller has opportunities. Constellation didn't really seem to work out for them. They bought Ballast Point for $1 billion and sold it for pennies, God only knows. But I think there will be M&A to continue on. I think those big brewers that have a lot of cash, and there certainly are some, will see this as an opportunity to pick up brewers that, there's a lot of people out there that are over leveraged that will be looking for an exit. There's still, some of the original players that will be looking for method for exit. So I think the M&A market will still be hot. Money is dirt cheap. So that's going to happen. We'll have a bit of a shakeout here, especially because so many people got in and banks were loaning. There are over-leveraged players. Now, money, like I said, money is cheap, but cash is king. And if you don't have that flow going, things get tight pretty quickly. So I still get calls now and then from the M&A guys. I know them. Sometimes they just come to have a beer so we can all compare notes on what's going on out there.
There you go.
I hope that's at the Eccentric Cafe, because I still love that place. I know you're not a tap room model, but I still love going to the Eccentric Cafe.
We'll be open next Thursday.
Nice. I miss it.
The tacos. I miss the tacos.
Yeah.
All right. So we have some rapid fire questions, kind of one word answers here to round out that we do with every guest. Are you ready, Larry?
Oh, the lightning round. Here we go.
Yeah, that's right. All right. Favorite leader?
Abraham Lincoln.
Courage or compassion?
Compassion.
Speed or accuracy?
Accuracy.
Great ideas or great execution?
Great ideas.
A word to describe your leadership style?
Eccentric.
Very good.
Very good.
Yeah. Night owl or early bird?
Night owl.
All right. And so our podcast is called The Jungle, after a Ray Dalio quote about you go through the jungle and you can live a terrific life, but it's dangerous. It can be tough. It's difficult. So imagine that jungle is business, and you're going to approach this jungle. What restaurant are you going to in Kalamazoo to have that meal before you go into the jungle?
I'm going to Food Dance because I don't know what's jungle-like in there anyways.
Okay.
Midwestern jungle.
That's right. And then if you had a product that you could take with you into the jungle, what would you bring?
One of my products?
Or any product.
Any product.
A head net.
Excellent. And then last one to close out, if you had an animal that really captured and embodied your leadership style, what would be your leadership animal, Larry?
Wow, you guys got tough ones here. Let's see. I'll be a bear.
Excellent.
A bear. Why a bear? Why'd you say that?
Well, the beer industry is a little bit sleepier in the wintertime. We hibernate. We get going, and then we're up all summer long making beer while people are drinking. We're really pretty friendly, but we can be fierce if we have to. Don't mess with us, and we'll come after you.
I like it. Great answer.
That's great. Larry Bell, thank you so much. I can cross this off my bucket list, having a beer with Larry Bell. Really appreciate your time.
My pleasure. Thanks, guys.